All right, welcome in. Cube Show podcast, college football podcast, usually comes to you on Sundays, but it's intentional that we're not with you on a Sunday this time, as we're going to do a college football playoff preview each weekend leading up to all the weekend's games through the national championship game, and it's going to be brought to you by Prize Picks. So do what I'm about to do right now. Go to your phone, click Prize Picks, head on in right there, see what you can do. We're going to click college football right there, and then it's going to come up. How about this is what we're going to have for this weekend? Quinn Ewers. More or less 1.5 passing touchdowns. How about Riley Leonard? More or less 26.5 pass attempts in the game against Indiana Friday night. Nico Iamaleava, more or less 18.5 rushing yards. That's one we're going to talk about. I might like that one a little bit. Matthew Golden, more or less 59.5 receiving yards for the Texas wide receivers. You can get all that right there at Prize Picks. Just get it in your app. Go to prizepicks.com. It is easy, and Prize Picks wants to make it easy for you. It's the number one sports fantasy app in the world. And right now, you go to Prize Picks on your phone, download the app, put $5 in, use promo code CUBE. They're going to give you $50 to play with. How about that? It's easy. PrizePicks.com or download the app, Prize Picks today. They bring you this college football playoff special for the next few weeks. So let's get into the games coming up this weekend. We will start it off Friday night, ABC, 7 o'clock, Indiana at Notre Dame, 11-1 versus 11-1. I love this game for a lot of different reasons. I think there are multiple facets of this game that I'm interested in. It is going to be a line of scrimmage game. And that's not just on the Notre Dame side of things. That's on the Indiana side of things as well. Mike Haddock, love their center. I think their offensive line plays well together. Probably not a lot of first or second round draft picks on this Indiana offensive line, but they understand the scheme. They operate well together. They play within it. They never come off early on their combo blocks. They understand how to help each other in pass protection. It's just a good group with how they operate as one, which is how good offensive line play is supposed to be. I think that Curtis Rourke might be the most underrated player in this entire tournament. He has been fantastic this year. He works within the scheme well, but he can make the throws. I think he's going to be an NFL starter down the road one day. This Indiana team's got weapons that have juice. Elijah Surratt, he can absolutely go. I think you got a couple other guys like an Omar Cooper that can make plays, do different things. And out of the backfield, Justice Ellison, Tyson Lawton are backs that might not be the biggest, bulkiest, but they run that zone play and they turn north and south and they can get it. So I think the challenge is not so much going to be with the Notre Dame defensive line that a lot of you know about and a lot of you are aware about. R.J. Oben came over from Duke, has been great. Howard Cross been a little bit dinged up, but he's fantastic, an awesome football player. Doesn't look as big as he plays, but he is just a great player overall. Riley Mills inside. This is a good defensive line. I don't think Indiana pushes this group around. I don't think they got to get a lot of wins against this group. The group that's going to have some issues, though, I think, are the Notre Dame linebackers. And when you look at Jack Kaiser and Drake Bowen going up against this RPO-based system that also can give you a bootleg every now and then, a throwback screen, Indiana's fantastic with their screen game. So they're going to make you run to try to open some things up to get inside. I still don't think that Indiana's able to live in between the tackles. But that perimeter run game and the perimeter passing game, especially some of the quick throws with the weather that we're potentially going to have, that might be it for the passing game. I think is going to be critical in this matchup. Now, I think that Curtis Rourke could be smart enough to know when to take his chances, when to pick his spots. And it's a secondary that's a little bit dinged up, not as strong as they were before the beginning of the season. So you get a shot player too, but I don't think they're going to live down the field in this game. I think they live by handing it off, a couple of RPOs, screen game, make that Notre Dame defense run and see if they can bust a couple explosives that way. I actually feel pretty good about the matchup for Indiana because their offensive line is good enough to neutralize what's best about, in my opinion, this Notre Dame defense, and that's their front. Howard Cross and those guys can take over games and can be very problematic. I think Indiana has the recipe to be able to offset that. Other side of the football, as we go into this one, I believe Indiana, 7-point dog in this game, 52.5 the total. Give you some reasons that I like Indiana in this one. I think the Notre Dame offense is great. Riley Leonard has gotten better in the intermediate throws. He runs the offense well. Of course, he gives you +1 in the run game, which could be a bit of an issue. This Indiana defense, their D-line's fun to watch. They're active. They get after you. They attack. Like C.J. West, number 8, down inside. He can get some good push inside. Michael Kamara, 6 on the outside. I think their edges, like Linnell Carr Jr. and company, are very active, very aggressive. They're going to move them a bunch. They're going to have tackle out, end stunts, like a tech stunt where the tackle goes in, the end comes around, or vice versa. Tackle in comes in, tackle goes around. Sometimes they'll slant them, and your replacement linebacker has to come over the top. That aggressiveness, I think, could be a bit of a problem. They're a little bit light out there. They're not the heaviest handed guys. And so that's why I think they move them a lot. So what's the Indiana plan defensively going in here? Is it to stay aggressive, to move a lot? Or is it to sort of maybe just play a little bit straight up and see if you can manage that? Haven't done that a lot this year, but if Notre Dame is a little bit one-dimensional, maybe you sort of play that way and just add one to the run game, see if you can live that way. Notre Dame has 3 players averaging over 7 yards per carry when you subtract sacks from Riley Leonard. Pretty good in the run game. The problem, I think, for Indiana is going to be when Notre Dame decides to go north and south. Now, Indiana's been great against the run, but I've seen a couple of teams on film in spurts have success going right at them. Now, nobody could just live there because, again, this is a hit and miss defense when they attack the way that they do with all the movement. You're going to get a 4-yard TFL. You're going to give up an 8-yard gain. It's going to happen that way. They just hadn't been hit as much with the 8 and 18 and 80-yard gains as they have with the 2 and 4-yard losses. But Notre Dame's offensive line's solid, man. They can get a good push. Maybe not the most talented group they've had in recent years. I think the tackles are a little bit gettable in pass pro, which you don't want Riley Leonard living in 3rd and 10 and 8s anyway. He's not going to throw the ball 40 times in this game. That's not who they're going to be. And I think tight ends, I think tight ends, not just in this game, we're going to talk about tight ends with almost every matchup. I think it might be the most valuable position for these teams with this personnel and these matchups of any other group, because they're just going to have to do a lot of heavy lifting in a lot of different ways. We'll talk about them, though. I think, too, when you talk about Notre Dame on offense, you got a good tight end in Mitchell Evans. Cooper Flanagan helps a little bit. They're going to have to help those tackles in pass pro if they do get to 3rd and longs, obvious pass downs. The intermediate passing game probably going to be a little bit more important. That'll be redundant with these teams that are going to be playing in bad weather. Also in the run game, just get some stuff opened up. Give a little extra oomph in the run game. I think they can help there. So I think that's why the value is going to come in. This will be different for some other teams. I think Indiana can cause enough problems defensively that their offense, which is a better matchup in this game, and I don't think it changes based on the conditions that much because they can turn and hand it a ton if they need to, gets this game. I actually like Indiana to win the game as a 7-point underdog on the road, the first ever college football playoff game with a 12-team playoff. And obviously, I think it's the first Notre Dame game, home game, not broadcast on NBC since 1990. I think they find a way to get it. And I think, listen, turnovers, both these teams have been great. The penalties are a little bit worse for Notre Dame, but the 3rd down offense for Indiana has been phenomenal, 48% on the year. They'll be probably a little more run heavy than they have been this year, but that's going to depend some on how Notre Dame plays it. But I like Indiana, man, straight up to get this game. I think they find a way to win it. I think it's going to be a great game, though. It's going to be a bit of a slugfest. Saturday morning, 11 a.m. TNT. It's not the NBA playoffs, so you're going to have to go find TNT to watch this one. SMU at 11-2 against Penn State at 11-2. Some really intriguing parts of this matchup. Let's start with the SMU offense. Kevin Jennings has been dynamic. 93 carries, 379 yards, 5 touchdowns. He's thrown for over 3,000 yards, completed 66%, 22 touchdowns, 8 picks. That's the good news. The bad news is it doesn't always look clean. It doesn't always look exactly the way that you want it to. He gets a little off platform, out of whack at times, but a lot of times when he does that, he ends up making a play and positive things end up happening. So I wouldn't look at it as a situation where if you see him have to be on the move, all of a sudden that's going to be a negative. He turns those into positives. And that outside run game is one with Brashard Smith, 217 carries, 1,270 yards, has been great this year. My wonder for SMU in this game is, can they go right at Penn State? And a lot of people, I know, they would hear that and they say, well, hold on, Penn State's like top 10 rush defense in the country. They're not just going to be able to go right at that group. I actually think, based on what I've seen on film, that if you challenge Penn State north and south, you have a chance to be successful. Because what happens is their defensive line has a tendency to get the shoulders turned a little bit, play a gap over. Where they win is what their linebackers and safeties actually make up for. Their safeties and linebackers are fantastic at scraping over the top, arriving at plays before they get there when the defensive line does move or even doesn't fit it correctly. They make up for a lot. And they actually get ball carries to the ground extremely well. It's not something where they have an issue with. I like, obviously, what they have on the edges with Abdul Carter. If SMU is going to sit back and try to throw it 40 times, he'll get back there. He'll get to the quarterback. Actually, this entire group can get there. Love Zane Durant, 28 inside. Twitch, kind of a more compact body, lower center to the ground, defensive tackle who's just got like good east and west quickness. He's got a nice little swim move. He gets a lot of one-on-one wins inside, and he'll continue to do that if you allow him to. Also, because this linebacker group, like I said, arrives at plays before they develop, they can jump some things. Here's the dilemma for Rhett Lashley in this SMU offense. I think you have to throw window dressing at this defense. I think you have to have motions, read plays, option plays, boots, sprint outs, different things like that to get them running and try to hit them another direction. The issue with that comes in potential snow, potential wet weather, potential cold weather, a quarterback who's put it on the ground a few times this year. Ball security has been a little bit of an issue with Jennings. How much of that do you want to do? How much potential handoff keeps do you want? How many quick throws or tosses or push passes do you want on a jet sweep? How much do you want to exchange the football or potentially exchange the football if those things are happening and you have a disruptive front that you're playing against? I don't know how much they go down the field. I think they can find some wins down there. I think if they can get time in the pocket, you can find a way to be able to grab a few balls down the field. I think with SMU, you look at that defense, and Brandon Crossley might be a guy that you try to take advantage of. So Penn State can push it down the field. Can SMU push the ball down the field? I don't know if that's where they want to live. And I think they've got some playmakers that can go get it, that can attack it. But in this game, in these conditions, I don't know how much they want to be there. When Penn State has the football, I actually think it's a much worse matchup for SMU. So Penn State, if you've watched their run game, heavy gap scheme. They're going to counter you. They're going to power you. They're going to block back, and they're going to pull around. Well, the edge defenders for SMU are super aggressive, hyper aggressive. Cam Robertson, 15, a lot of twitch. He's got all the hand stuff that he can win with. He can get upfield. He can dip and rip. Elijah Roberts, maybe not as quick. Jafari Harvey can give you some of that off the edge also. I think what happens a little bit is they'll try to give you a big swim move and they'll get out of their gap, or they'll try to give you a spin inside and all of a sudden they lose contain. Contain has been a little bit of an issue for this team multiple times. I've seen it. So if Penn State's running off tackle gap scheme and you don't have anybody home, you're in trouble. That could be a big issue. Also, I wonder, too, if Penn State doesn't at least try to just get north and south between the tackles. Now, don't mistake this SMU defense as to just thinking that this is a smaller, lighter, less talented group. Because, like, you watch Jonathan Jefferson, big 94 in there, that kid can hold the point. I mean, he will strike and shed and stand an offensive lineman up and chuck him off and come make a tackle. Anthony Booker's got a little bit of that in him. He adds some more quickness, but they have guys that can hold the point. So I love the left side of the Penn State offensive line. I'm not a fan of the right side of the offensive line. But I think when you have these running backs get going in some of that gap scheme stuff and then you play action off of that a little bit, that's where you get the backers running and maybe get them out of position to try to find some things. Back to the importance of the tight ends. You have, like we did on the show this morning with McElroy, we were talking about if you could take 3 players off of any of these teams and have them just for this tournament, who are you going to take? And I understand quarterback's the most important position in everybody's mind, but I was just thinking of like this tournament importance and who could help me do different things. So I actually went a little bit of a different direction. I went Ashton Jeanty 1, and sure, Dylan Sampson's a great back there. I mean, Quintravious Weiser's been stepping it up, playing well. Judkins and Henderson, both incredible. Jeanty's different, man. His offensive line is not like A++. It's not a dominant group. He doesn't have an elite passing game to offset, open some things up, and get like 4- and 5-man boxes. That ain't it. He's just that good. And to think about being able to know you can turn around, hand the ball off to him, I don't know, 20, 25 times a game, and what that does to your quarterback, what it relieves from him, the stress it puts on the defense to have to add defenders, maybe not play as aggressive. Your defense can maybe be more aggressive because you're not on the field as much. Like, I'll take Ashton Jeanty to just ease everything for my football team. Number 2 would be Tyler Warren, and this is where we were going to go with Penn State. I think Tyler Warren's the ultimate mismatch. He is maybe not as fast, but he is. I mean, I think he's every bit of Brock Bowers as far as what he does, matchups, formations, being able to line up, do different things. And he's got probably a little bit more physicality than Bowers did, just because he's bigger and stronger. I don't think, not that Brock didn't make the effort, but Tyler Warren's just a little bit bigger body. You give me a guy that can throw the ball, catch the ball, run away from you when he catches it, run over you when he catches it, run routes to get open, and snap the ball. I need that guy on my team. So I think Tyler Warren is the ultimate mismatch, Swiss Army knife, move him around. I would love to know how Tim Banks is going to identify him defensively. Are you going to identify him as a tight end? Because I think you're going to get burnt a couple of times if you do that. They're going to have help over him. And that's going to be a really big decision as far as just how they're going to manage him and what you're going to identify him as. Because I don't know if you can just play him like a regular tight end. Also, I think that he gives you a little extra oomph in the run game if you need him to. So utilize him as a puller and encounter, utilize him a couple of different ways, and he could be a problem. So I think that's a massive mismatch that gives Penn State some real advantages over this SMU defense. And two, if we go back to that intermediate passing game, which kind of started all that, I think that gives him a big advantage as well. My number 3 was Kobe Wilson, who's going to be lined up on the other side of the football from Tyler Warren. Some of you might not know who that is. He is number 24 on the SMU defense. He is a linebacker, and he is a dynamo. He is everywhere on the field. He is not afraid to come up and play the run. He's not afraid of offensive linemen. He'll bounce off of them and make plays. He's great in coverage. And I don't care if the ball starts on the left hash and ends up on the right sideline, or if it's a handoff that ends up 80 yards down the field. Like, he is around the football. He finds a way to get to the football. I thought he was a nickel the first 4 or 5 series I was watching him, just because the way he flies around, he moves like he's not a linebacker. But he's fun to watch, man. Like, he is a spark plug. He's a dude. He's a football player. I think both of those that I listed, second and third, just football players. Like, find a way to get him around the ball or get him the ball and let him make some things happen. But I do wonder, with a lot of the extra pullers and the extra bodies that Penn State could have, I would suspect they'll go a little bit of Q run, whether it's inside zone or quarterback power. Let Drew Aller run it just a little bit to kind of give them the numbers on that defense, try to wear them down a little bit more. Don't think there's going to be a ton of shots down the field. Utilize the tight end and try to control this game the way that you want to. I think Penn State gets the win, not just because they're bigger, badder, not because SMU doesn't belong. I just think it's a bad matchup right now for this SMU football team, what they are, what they have personnel-wise. Penn State a little bit better in the turnovers. Here's something else to watch for this game. SMU has 107 penalties for over 1,000 penalty yards this year. Like, put that in perspective. Penn State has 64. Clemson has 64. Ohio State has 52. Indiana has 57. So if that starts to become, you're going to have crowd noise. You're going to have issues, maybe cadence, snap count. That could become a problem. I think they'll probably try to go some tempo to try to neutralize a little bit of that, but you got to get some first downs first to get that thing going. But penalties could be a real problem for SMU in this game. I think Penn State gets the win just because it's a bad matchup. I think the conditions favor Penn State. Being at home, obviously going to be a big help to Penn State. I think the athleticism up front of Penn State defensively against what SMU is probably going to have to do to have success in this game. The one way I see SMU winning this game are shot plays down the field. If they continuously hit plays down the field for explosives, then I think they can find a way to win this game. They're not going to grind this one out. It's just not going to be that way. All right, 3 o'clock, TNT or Max, wherever you want to watch that. And don't forget this college football playoff preview special, first edition, brought to you by Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com or your app store. Use promo code CUBE and put $5 in. You get 50. It's that easy. Prize Picks. All right. So Clemson at Texas, 3 o'clock, TNT and Max. A couple of things that have to happen to beat Texas. You got to tackle. You got to tackle in the open field. You have to do it well, probably for 4 quarters, because they're going to challenge you on the perimeter. Georgia had a lot of success against that run game. And Clemson has similar bodies up front to be able to make a few of those things happen. I don't think that's really the matchup to watch here, though. I think on the other side of the ball is where that matchup becomes really problematic. I think Clemson can neutralize some of the interior run. This is, once again, tight ends become a big part of this. You look at the Texas offensive line, I think overall, specifically lately, has underperformed just a tad. However, You got a tight end that can help you do a lot of things. It can help you in a lot of different ways. Gunnar Helm has been great for Texas this year. He can line up in line and he can help you with the run game. He's a good route runner. He's worked on his speed after the catch. He's become a little bit more dangerous with the run after the catch stuff. That also something that I think he can be successful with and that they can take advantage of. This is a Clemson group of linebackers that move quickly. When I say that, I mean, like, they get to the line of scrimmage on run fakes in a hurry. There's a lot of times that an RPO or a play fake, they'll get sucked up to the line of scrimmage, and then all of a sudden things bounce or it's a different play to the outside, and they have trouble recovering to be able to get out there. So Bear Carter, Wade Woodaz, Sammy Brown, like, they come up and they fly over a lot. So that's a dangerous place to be against a Steve Sarkisian offense, because you're going to get pullers, you're going to get splitters, you're going to get jet motions, orbit motions, return motions. You're going to get guys motioning into the backfield, out of the backfield, play fakes, read plays, RPOs, all of that. Eye discipline is going to be massive for the Clemson defense in this game, because I do think up front, Peter Woods, TJ Parker and company, they can cause some problems, especially with how Texas has been managing a lot of their protections recently. Now, a couple games down the stretch, they went to a few more 5-0 protections, which is just man it up. But when they slide that protection, teams that have penetrating fronts have had success. Also, the way they work their inside run scheme, inside zone, really flat to the left and to the right. So they almost turn and face the line of scrimmage, and then it's become a little bit of a slower developing run play. I don't like that against a defensive line like this, because Clemson can get one gap over and get up in field or get upfield right now, and that's going to be a problem. You're not going to be able to stop that. So they'll dent your run and force it to cut back a little bit earlier. Not what you want. The A&M game, when Weiser got going, he was able to gain momentum and then make the cuts where he wanted to go. You stop that momentum early and force the cutback right away, kind of like what A&M did to Missouri earlier this year, you're going to have problems. And Georgia did a good job against Texas both times with that. So we'll see if Clemson can find a way to do that. The other problem is the secondary. Depending on where you're going to play your extra bodies, these Texas receivers get the ball in their hands, and you give them space, specifically once they catch it, right after they catch it, they're gone. They're going to turn those into explosive plays. We know, I don't know the health of Bond heading into this game, but Matthew Golden can, DeAndre Moore can, Ryan Wingo can, Silas Bolden can. Those guys are an issue. And then, too, you take Wisner or Blue out of the backfield, throw them the football a little bit more. We're going to talk about that on Prize Picks here in a minute. Then I think you really have the opportunity to look at something and say, how are you going to be in space? Because now you're out of luck. You either bring guys down to play the run, you help on the back end in coverage, not allowing guys to get open, and they're going to pick you apart one way or the other. The reality comes down to it. Sark will get guys in space. I don't know if the Clemson defenders will be out in space fast enough to consistently slow it down. But the other thing that you can do to have success against them is get to Quinn Ewers and make him think, because he's locked on to a couple of receivers here lately, and that is not the way it needs to be and not the way it's supposed to go. You force him into that, you can force some problems out, and I think you can make some plays. Offensively, I think Cade Klubnik's been great this year. He doesn't get enough credit for the improvements that he's made. You've heard me say it before. A lot of these quarterbacks that have that turnover DNA inside of them, that turnover genome is wired in there. They're never able to Jurassic Park rewire that thing. Like they're not going in there and rewiring those chromosomes. He's been able to do a lot of that. Not completely, but a lot of it. Playing good football. Now, I don't know if you want him to live on the run, but against this front, there will be no space between the tackles. There's just not. I know Clemson's not going to be 100% at running back, not going to have all those running backs out there, but you're not going to be able to consistently find space here no matter who you were. Georgia couldn't do it between the A-gaps. They started to bounce some off tackle a little bit, but you're not just going to line up and go right at this group. It's not going to happen. Maffa, Adams, whoever that is, it's just like it's not going to be there. This Clemson offensive line, not great. I would say above average, and you're playing against one of the better fronts in college football. Where Texas is different than what we thought they were going to be this year is up front. They're great at linebacker. Safeties are having a good season. Jahdae Barron's having a good year, moving over to corner a little bit more. But the defensive line is where they're different. We know they were great inside last year. We knew that. We knew that was going to be a problem for a lot of people. What we didn't know is that Colin Simmons was going to burst on the scene off the edge like he has. What we didn't know is that Ethan Burke and Barron Sorrell were going to be able to play out in, move around, do different things for them. What we didn't know is that Trey Moore was going to come in from UTSA and be a problem off the edge. What we didn't know is that Anthony Hill Jr., inside linebacker, would line up off the edge and be able to rush and get a pass rush and be a problem there. The front is an issue. Inside, we thought it was going to be a massive drop-off. It really hasn't. Jermaine Lowell, Alfred Collins, Bill Norton, Aaron Bryant, Vernon Broughton, they have been great this year. And you just ain't moving them. You're not going to run between the tackles on that group. Anthony Hill, sideline to sideline. Benda, sideline to sideline, coming downhill physically too. Like they're tone setters at linebacker. And the safeties have been fantastic. So you look back at how Taff has played this year. McCuba's played well, been a little bit dinged up at times. But I just think that with what Jahdae Barron's done at corner, it's going to be tough sledding for Clemson offensively. I don't think the run game is going to get going. I think Texas will control it. Being at home is going to help. They're a 12-point favorite. That feels like a lot of points, but I'd probably take it. I think Texas wins the game. Finally, Saturday night, the one I'm most excited about, to be honest with you, I'm really excited about Indiana Notre Dame. So I think it's going to be good. Friday night, standalone, sort of. Saturday is just going to be an amazing day of football, period. But 7 o'clock on ABC, Tennessee 10-2 at Ohio State 10-2. We ran a couple of practices on the show this week in the morning, McElroy and Kubelik in the morning with Greg McElroy. Take one facet of every team and who would win the national championship, because Coach Saban said he thought physicality was the most important thing in this tournament. Not necessarily quarterback play, but physicality. Overall physicality, we gave that edge to Tennessee. People say, what? Because they look at the system and the scheme and they're like, there's no way it can't be Tennessee. Like, they're not built that way. They are built that way. It was a major offseason emphasis for them to go out, find extra tight ends, become a little bit more downhill, become more intentional with the downhill run game, become more intentional with the physicality, and they've been able to do that. So the offensive line is solid. Andrew Karg's played well. Cooper Mays might be the most valuable player to his team in this entire tournament. Tyler Warren's up there. Ashton Genty's up there. But you think about also potentially going and playing in weather. A quarterback that's going to be in shotgun 99.9% of the time and has handled it well and does all the communication up there and changes things. Like Jake Majors is up there for Texas with what he does, because he can reroute the backs from the center position in protection. But Cooper Mays is pretty valuable too, especially in weather and with crowd noise. He's going to mean a lot to that team. So I love the offensive line. Javonte Spraggins is going to get after you. He's good for a penalty too every game. John Campbell Jr., big physical. Lance Hurd, big physical. They're not the cleanest. They are not the most technically sound. They're not the most fundamentally sound. But if you're talking about blunt force trauma, they bring it more than anybody else in this tournament. On top of that, what else they've done is gone out and found some tight ends that can do that. Miles Kitselman, the Bama transfer, he'll get after you. Holden Stace, Stanford transfer, will get after you. Ethan Davis will get after you. And then here comes Dylan Sampson, who can shake you and run past you, but will run over you. So all of that put together with the ability to line you up literally 6 inches from each sideline, stretch the ball down the field vertically, outside, inside, outside. It's a challenge for any defense. There are parts of the Ohio State defense I really like, but there are parts of it that I think are maybe a little bit overrated. The edges are athletic. They've got some twitch, but I personally think they're super inconsistent. Now, if Tennessee's thrown the ball 40 times in this game, that's a big advantage to Ohio State, because the Tennessee tackles are not great in pass protection. So that would immediately become an issue. Jack Sawyer, solid player. JT, good player, shows up. It's not always there, but it can be there in a hurry, and it can be a problem. I look also at inside with Ohio State is where they could cause some problems. I'm a big fan of Tyleik Williams. Ty Hamilton's solid, but Williams, I think, is their most disruptive guy. But that goes back to Cooper Mays and some of the stuff we talked about there. Like, Tennessee's pretty good inside. I think they can handle it. And then two, when you get the tight ends on the split zones, working on the edge defender sometimes, and then the inserts, well, sometimes they'll combo on a D tackle. Like, this D line is going to be taking extra hits on the hips, in the ribs, in the shoulder pads, like from multiple angles. And I think some of that is by design to not allow them to just tee off and not allow them to just anchor, because they want you thinking about getting hit different ways. It's going to help open up the run game a little bit. Ohio State linebackers are solid. Caleb Downs is a really good player. I don't know how much they go down the field. I think it's a pretty similar game plan to what we saw at Oklahoma and against Alabama and a couple of other teams. If Tennessee hits a couple shots early, I think they're fine and this is a comfortable win. If they don't, they have to grind it out. I still think they get the win, but I think it's going to be tight. And I think they might need a mistake or two from Ohio State. When Tennessee's on defense is where I think a lot of people just get lost and don't know exactly what this is going to look like. So Seth McLaughlin out at center for Ohio State. Go back and watch the film. In the Michigan game, there are about 4 or 5 snaps that are pretty wide, pretty high, kind of low. You didn't get that with McLaughlin this year. And I know a lot of people don't ever think it was all his fault at Alabama, but it wasn't. And now you have a new center in bad conditions against a defensive line that can absolutely rip, specifically the inside. Like James Pierce will get you too. Dominic Bailey's come on off the edge. Joshua Joseph saw it off the edge, but it's inside where they're a real problem. And one of the other misconceptions I've heard recently is this Ohio State-Michigan game, how, Ohio State tried to play Michigan's game and they failed. I didn't really see it that way. I can see how people saw it that way and why you would think that, because they handed the ball off a lot. Well, go look at the looks. They were getting run looks. So they were getting lighter boxes. It's like the dealer telling you when to hit and not hit when you're playing blackjack. Like the book says, run the ball here. Now you might not want to, and you might think it's better to go throw the football. But when they threw the ball, the Michigan DBs were on them in a hurry. And a lot of times on them in a hurry after giving them cushion. They deflected a bunch of balls. They had a couple drops. And I don't think Ohio State challenged them down the field early enough either. So you put Amari Thomas, Elijah Simmons, Omar Norman Lott is a load. You ain't moving him. Bryson Eason, all inside on this Tennessee defense. I don't think Ohio State's going to manage that very well. They roll 8 deep inside. They have extra edge defenders. The thing that got Ohio State against Michigan wasn't Mason Graham and that D-line just taking over. It was the run through by the linebackers while they were trying to manage a very good defensive line. Those guys got into the backfield and made plays and redirected runs. That was the problem. If that continues, then I don't think Ohio State is just going to move the ball up and down the field on Tennessee. Can they get their corners? Maybe. But one, are you going to have time? Moving Donovan Jackson out to tackle and having a new center, is your O-line going to hold up? Two, in the conditions that we're supposedly going to get, where wind 18, 22 miles an hour, any quarterback will tell you wind is the worst thing to try to throw in. And 28 degrees, maybe with some snow, sleet, whatever that's going to be. I don't know if you're going to sit there and ask your quarterback to chuck it down the field 35, 40 times. I think a lot of that's advantage Tennessee. And people just think, Ohio State running backs run the football, Quinshon, Travion. It's advantage Tennessee in my mind, because I think Tennessee is the bully in this game. And I think that's the way that it's going to play out. I like Tennessee to win it. 7.5 point favorite is Ohio State. I'd play money line Tennessee if it were me. 45.5. I kind of like the over there. But I like Tennessee to win the game and advance in the college football playoff. So I mentioned that we were brought to you by Prize Picks. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to pull up my lineups that I have created right here on Prize Picks. Got a couple set for you. I'm going to put the screenshots on the screen. We got a 6-pick lineup with a couple that I really like here. Burt Auburn, more or less 1.5 field goals made. The Texas offense has struggled in the red zone recently. It's kind of been an issue all year. Wisner's running ability has helped just a little bit, but I think Sark has been very low percentage in his play calling in the red zone. I go back to the Vanderbilt game. You get down to the 5, and after you're running the ball, and it's like out route, fade. And you've seen a bunch of that. You saw some against Georgia, like attacking the end zone near the red zone or even the high red zone. I think that will end a good defensive line and an active group of linebackers that could get you a TFL or two. I think Texas has to settle for field goals. I think Burt Auburn has more than 1.5. Will Howard, lower than 235.5 yards passing. So that's one that I'm going to have here also. You go back and look at Will Howard. He has one 300-yard game this season. He's only been over 235 6 times all year. Well, now you're going to have weather and one of the better defensive lines that he's ever played against. So I love lower than 235.5 for Will Howard passing yards. Matthew Golden, who has been exceptional for Texas over the last few weeks, sits at 59.5 yards receiving. I think Matthew Golden goes over that. I mean, that's basically 2 catches for him. I think there's going to be a couple explosives in that game. Keep in mind, that's one that we're going to talk about where the weather's not going to be an issue. Also, if Clemson does give them some cushion, like what are some of the yards after catch going to look like? He went for 8 for 162 against Georgia. So he's coming off his best game of the season, and he had a little bit of a hip pointer earlier in the year, and he's just gotten healthier and healthier. Now I think he's rare to go. Cade Klubnik over 216.5 yards passing. The run game's not going to be there. You're not going to run Cade Klubnik 20 times. He's going to have to throw the ball. Now, if it's Burning Stool at tight end or Antonio Williams stepping up, like they've got to find yards through the air. Even though that pass rush is going to be difficult, even though they're going to be able to dent the pocket inside, I think he goes more than 216.5 yards passing, because some of that could just be trying to come back late in the game and he pops for 40 or 55 in the fourth quarter, and he's going to have more than 216.5. Omar Cooper, wide receiver, Indiana, over 29.5 yards. There will be a couple of quick hitters that go for big gains in this game, specifically from Indiana. Cooper has the juice to be able to do that. I think he's a little bit forgotten about because he's not the number one target, but more than 29.5 I like for Omar Cooper. And then Justice Ellison, this might be a bit of a flyer, more than 4.5 receiving yards. All right, if you're playing a great defensive line and you don't have time to sit in the pocket and pass, they're getting to you, what's the first thing that you do? You screen them, right? Well, Justice Ellison catches one screen over 4.5. That's easy. I mean, that's stealing right there. So also, if you got a good pass rush, a good defensive line, you're probably going to hit some check downs. It's a good Notre Dame secondary. If they're covered, I think you're talking about a quarterback that gets to the check down, and that could be where he hits it right there and has more. The next lineup that I have is for a couple of other bowl games too. Elijah Badger, Florida wide receiver. I have him more than 29.5 receiving yards. I mean, hell, that's one throw down. That's one jump ball from Lagway that I think he has a chance to go get. Quintravian Wisner, 11.5 yards, longest reception. I have more than that because I think they'll get him in the flat and try to utilize him outside, because you're not going to just go at the teeth of that defense all day. He's been great catching the ball outside on the perimeter, and he can take it for more than 11.5 yards. And then Chris Brazzell, longest reception, more than 15.5 yards. There will be an explosive play or two. It's just going to be, is Brazzell the one that comes up with it? He's had his shots down the field. He and Nico have missed a couple of times, but he's also a guy that I know for a fact can make that play. Thanks for tuning in. We're going to do this every week. So we got a series leading into every college football playoff weekend of games that we're going to give you, brought to you by Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com. Download the app in your app store. It's easy. I showed you right here on my phone how quick you get it. You can pull it up, and then you can go look at what you got. You also have NBA, college football. Prize Picks, the title sponsor of this particular set of shows going through the college football playoff. So go to Prize Picks right now, get in your app, sign up, put $5 in, and you get 50 to spin right then, right there. It's that easy at Prize Picks. Appreciate them sponsoring this. Leave your comments of who your top 3 players would be in this entire tournament that you would want on your team. And then also let us know who wins it. We'll be back next week.